A big part of our study of the workplace relations system is looking at who's involved, and we're going to call those the participants. And it's just a fancy way of saying when we have workplace relations, who's going to be involved. So, if we could sort of represent it as a diagram before we get into each one in subsequent videos, we could say the participants in the Australian workplace relations system are this. On one side, we've got the employees, and on the other side, we've got the employers or the businesses. And then what we say in our previous videos, we said they meet in the middle and sort of negotiate their relationship through something called workplace relations. However, it's a little more complicated than that because sometimes employees might want to be represented as a group, and they're going to be represented by trade unions or unions. You might see either term in your textbook. But on the other side, there's also something that can represent a group of employers called the employer association. So what we can see here is we've got an individual level. We've got individual employees, individual employers can negotiate, but they can also negotiate as a group. So it can negotiate as a trade union or an employer association. And that's probably all you think about when you go workplace relations. It's just employees and their employers, but there's a couple of other participants we need to know about. The first one is the human resource manager, because the actual topic we're studying at the moment is called human resource management. That's the broader topic, and we need to know what the human resource management manager does. And lastly, we kind of need to know who the referee is or who sets the rules of the game, and that's the government. So they're the ones that create the policies and the laws for this whole game to be played. And there's a few things to know, but we'll try and simplify it and say what we really need to know is something about the called the Fair Work Commission or FWC. And that's probably enough. What we'll look at is just a couple of other things and say there's another thing called the Fair Work Ombudsman and also the courts where any disputes are heard. But for the most part, when we say the government, we don't mean the actual government of the day. So for example, right now it's the Labor government with Anthony Albanese. What we mean more is this government department called the Fair Work Commission. So what we'll do now is go and look at each of these participants one by one, and we'll say there's four. There's the unions and employees, that's number one. Number two, the employer associations and employers. Number three, the human resource manager. And number four, the Fair Work Commission or the government.